Get ready to dive deep, because today we're taking on a world of alchemy, the occult, and a figure so mysterious he makes Houdini look like an open book. Edward Kelley, a 16th century Englishman. Was he a mystical genius, or just maybe a little bit of a con man?
It's amazing how much of his life is totally hidden.
Like trying to see in a dark room with just a little candle, right?
Exactly. We're piecing together his story from these old biography bits, and even those, they contradict each other all the time.
Okay, so back then, alchemy wasn't just some weird hobby royalty. Scholars, everybody wanted to unlock the universe's secrets. Then, in walks Edward Kelley. What's the real story of his early life?
That's the interesting part. There's this idea he studied at Oxford, called himself Talbot.
Wait, going by a fake name even back then? That's shady. Makes you wonder what he was hiding.
Exactly. And then there's the story of his punishment, right? Imagine being punished so harshly they chopped off your ears.
Brutal.
It was a different world back then. Whether it's true or not, that detail says a lot. A dark past, full of secrets.
No wonder he always wore that cap. Makes you think, was that just his style? Or was he trying to look mysterious on purpose? But before we go too far, we got to talk about the other big name in this story, John Dee. This wasn't just any scholar. He advised Queen Elizabeth I herself on all things mystical.
Dee was obsessed with talking to angels. He'd even used these guys called scryers to see into the spirit world. But when he met Kelley in 1582, things got really strange.
I bet. What was that like, their first meeting?
Imagine Dee, a man of science and logic, meets Kelley, who's out here saying he can chat with angels as easily as we're talking now.
Wow. What did Dee see in Kelley? True belief. Was he desperate for some kind of result? Or did he see a bit of himself in Kelley? A shared interest in the unseen world, maybe?
Whatever it was, that meeting, that's where it all began. A wild ride for both of them, digging into angel mysteries, uncovering old alchemy secrets, and in the end, putting their own beliefs to the ultimate test.
And it's all because of these spiritual conferences, basically fancy seances, with Kelley as the angel hotline. They even found this Book of Dunstan and a recipe for something called red powder, which Kelley claimed was the key to alchemy's biggest trick.
We have to remember, turning metal into gold, that wasn't just about being rich back then. It was the ultimate achievement, like you'd cracked the code of existence itself.
So Kelley's saying he could do it. He wasn't just trying to impress rich people. He was saying he'd figured out the universe. No wonder everyone wanted a piece of that.
Oh, they saw it, all right. There are stories of Kelley performing this transmutation for some really powerful people, even a supposed demonstration for nobles in Bohemia. This wasn't a magic show. This was the kind of thing that could reshape the entire world.
It's wild. Two guys following angel whispers and the promise of alchemical gold, going from one fancy court to the next, all across Europe.
It wasn't just some intellectual field trip. This was serious stuff. Patronage, knowledge, and power all tangled up.
Right, like who's funding whose big dreams?
And alchemy. People were drawn to it, the genuine ones and the ones wanting to use it for their own gain.
So where did Kelley fall?
Hmm.
True believer or a con man playing the game?
People still debate that one. But even with the same goals, things between Kelley and Dee weren't exactly peachy. Imagine it. Two big personalities used to getting their way, arguing over what the angels meant, what to do next in their alchemy game plan.
Oh, and speaking of arguments, we can't forget the whole wife-swapping thing. 1 minute they're decoding angel messages, the next they're told to share wives.
That is a weird one. Angelic command. A test. Or was Kelley pulling the strings? No easy answers there.
Yeah.
But that's when things really went south for them.
It's like a bad breakup, but instead of a fight, it's this strange personal command. What did Dee even think after that? How do you square that with, faith, with seeking knowledge?
And here's the kicker, Kelley. He didn't just disappear after that. He was doing great. Patronage from Emperor Rudolph II himself, a guy famous for loving the occult.
From maybe having his ears chopped off to being knighted by an emperor. That's a serious glow up.
Talk about charisma. He knew how to work a room, play to people's desires, but getting chummy with an emperor who's obsessed with alchemy? Dangerous game.
Especially back then. You didn't disappoint a ruler and live to tell the tale.
And that's the thing. Kelley, for all his promises, all those shows, he couldn't deliver the big one, the Philosopher's Stone.
It wasn't just some magic item he failed to make. This was Rudolph's dream power, maybe even immortality.
And just like that, Kelley fell from grace, imprisoned by the very emperor who'd knighted him. The story goes, he died trying to escape.
A dramatic ending. But even in death, the intrigue's not over, is it? Because mixed up in the story of Edward Kelley, the alchemist, the scryer, There's another mystery. This linguistic puzzle people still try to crack today, the language of Enochian. It really is like something out of a spooky story, isn't it? A secret language spoken by angels found in a crystal ball.
It makes you wonder, did Kelley really believe it, this whole angel thing? Or was this another trick, to make himself seem even more powerful?
Right.
Enochian itself, it's fascinating, structured, complicated. It has its own rules, like any language. Some people think maybe he took bits of Hebrew, Greek, other old languages, and mashed them together into something new.
So instead of direct line to heaven, it's more like Kelley's remixing ancient languages, making his own mystical playlist.
Exactly. And knowing Kelley the showman, isn't it more fun to think he created this whole language to unlock, like he saw it, this hidden knowledge?
Way more interesting.
That's what's so great about studying history this way. You're putting together puzzle pieces, figuring out the possibilities. Enochian, whether it was really from angels or Kelley's own invention, it still makes people curious. It pops up in all these occult books. People have used it for magic, debated its meaning and where it really came from for centuries.
The power of a good mystery, I guess. Even if we don't have all the answers, these stories, they really make you think.
They do. And maybe that's what Kelley's story is really about. He wasn't just an alchemist, a scryer, or a con man. He was a storyteller. He created mysteries that we're still fascinated by hundreds of years later.
We've gone from those early days, through crazy alchemy, meeting angels, to a pretty tragic ending. And through it all, that question is still there. Who was Edward Kelley, really? A man touched by something bigger than himself, a really good con man. Or, like you said, maybe a bit of both, driven by ambition, wanting to unlock the secrets of the universe.
There's no easy answer, is there? And that's okay. Kelley's story reminds us that history isn't simple, it's messy. Ambition, faith, lies, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of real magic all mixed up together.
So we're at the end of our deep dive, and we'll leave you with this. If you could go back, look Edward Kelley in the eye, what would you see? A true believer, a skilled liar,
Right.
or maybe just a reflection of ourselves, still drawn to the things we don't understand.